I am the contrarian, and this is my world.
Hi, I'm Brian Bade, the Chief Executive from Reliance Digital. I'm happy to be here today on The Contrarian to debunk some of the myths about online retail.
Online versus offline. If ever the difference between two completely different businesses that cater to the same customer base was ever more vivid, clear, I don't think it's happened in the history of all kind of retail. Today, our country especially has become the hotbed of the online versus offline model. Which one really is the one that will take the future? Is this a pipeline that will dry up? Can the online business be replicated offline or vice versa? Well, today we're going to get most of those answers. So I'm going to give you about a minute to just get started with your viewpoint and your organization's viewpoint. You're a very, very major player. We're talking about 1,000+ stores now.
Correct,
for Reliance Digital?
Right.
Okay. Every single one of them is the touch and feel. I mean, brick and mortar also has become the old way of describing those stores. It's called the touch and feel store now. You can actually go there, physically see the product, feel it, touch it, use it, experience it, and then buy it, right? Versus I'm basically going to go online. I've already done the touch and feel at Reliance Digital. Now I'll go and see which is the lowest price online player and buy it from them. So your perspective of the Indian situation right now.
Well, I mean, I've lived here for almost 5 years, and I've seen online take off really dramatically here. And certainly it's a hot topic. I mean, every day there's probably no less than 3 or 4 articles in the paper about, you know, what's going on, and especially in the space that we operate in, home electronics and phones and mobiles and that. And it's a tough one because obviously the models that we sell are the same online versus in the store. So it's not like in the clothing industry or other industries where there's, you know, radically different assortments in that. So in the last couple of years, we've seen it really grow, and we anticipate to see, you know, online purchase really grow as well. You know, I would say it's here to stay. Obviously, I operate mostly stores, so, you know, we're partial to that format. But in reality, I think online shopping is good for the customer. I mean, the customer benefits from that. Any competition, you know, I come from an environment that the more competition it is better for the customer and drives more demand in the market and more knowledgeable customer. And we think that's better for us in the long run too. So, you know, we have a positive view as it relates to online players and that. You know, there's a few statistics I always like to use when I'm talking about online and offline. And in countries where, you know, the full spectrum has been available online for 10 or 15 years, you know, there's still the #1 retailer in our space in every country still is a brick and mortar retailer. There is no country that I'm aware of, not in China, not the United States, not Japan, not Europe, where the #1 electronics retailer is an online player.
Well, a lot of people would say it's only a matter of time.
But how much time? You know, it's been there for quite some time now, and you know, we feel like it's kind of played out. I don't know, you know, as technology changes, yes, it can go more that way. But you know, we can talk about, you know, how we see retail changing too. So,
okay. How is competition good for you when it's not a level playing field?
You know, if we're to take that premise, of course it's not good for us. Eventually, everything becomes a level playing field, I think. So I think eventually that'll change. Eventually, we all have to compete. So online will have their benefits, which will be price, selection, availability, and you know, they don't have to pay rent for the stores. But they still have to pay advertising, they still have to pay shipping, and they still have to figure out how to do service for the customer. Brick and mortar has their benefits, you know, which is, you know, obviously that they have, you know, customers can come in and they get that immediate gratification. If something breaks, they can bring it right back to the place. And, you know, realistically, we think that the price differential, you know, on just the hard numbers are about 5 or 6%. Means that over time, with everything becomes fair, you know, if you figure about a 3 or 4% for rent and another % or 2 for utilities and that, and I think that's not that big a number to, you know, to shoot for, is my view.
Now let me throw out another statement which I haven't usually done with anybody else, but I think you're perfect for this. A lot of people have a contrarian, exactly the show we are on, contrarian viewpoint that actually speaking, you may never say it, but you're actually very happy that this competition is actually good for you because you may have the staying power as Reliance Digital for the long haul. But this competition is also killing your other competition, which is all the other brick and mortar around you. Is that also a way you look at it, that this is good, they're killing my competition for me?
Certainly, it's a valid point. I mean, realistically, you know, the ones that will suffer the most are the weakest. And obviously, the weakest will be the places that, you know, have the poorest infrastructure, that can't do service, that don't have as wide a selection, maybe don't have as much money or buying power, you know, to get good terms with the vendors and that. So, yeah, I mean, ultimately, certainly it will hurt our weaker competition a lot sooner than it'll affect us. And then there will be a benefit to us for that, because some of those people, you know, as other shops may close, you know, some of those people are not online customers. So they'll search out for another brick and mortar shop, and then that should be us. So certainly I think it's a fair point, and you know, I hope that happens to a degree, frankly. But you know, eventually, you know, that's a limited thing too.
So let's just talk about this battle. It may take 3 years, it may take 2 years. Forget the time point of it, right? How do you play the game for the next few years till the pipeline is not dry, till burn money is still coming in, till acquisition is their model versus you, which is an actual customer that you want to sell to? You obviously will have an online strategy, a very, very big one. You can't survive without it.
Right.
How does that work out?
I mean, it's a very good question, of course. There's complicated answers with that, and there's multiple strategies. I'd say at the highest level, there's a lot of myths as it relates to e-commerce and pricing, and there are a lot of ways to win. The first biggest myth is that products are always cheaper online. That's just simply not true. You know, a lot of products are, and sometimes it's a dramatic difference, and it builds that perception on there. So there are a few iconic products, mainly in the areas of phones. But if you dig in deep into all the other categories that we carry, like televisions and appliances and things like that, the reality is that the online players now, it makes up almost none of their business as it sits right now. So I guess what I'm trying to say is we have a huge area of opportunity where we can actually win on price. So that's one. The other thing is that, you know, we have a lot of options available to us too as it relates to service that they can't, you know, that they can't touch as well. So a lot of our things are combined with installation and service and getting the products, you know, up and working and that. We have a support, you know, system through our, you know, Reliance Rescue that, you know, that they don't have and will not be able to have, you know, anytime in the near future on the online space.
So let me paint this picture. So you're about to launch online, Reliance Digital Online, your entire portal and whatever you're going to do with it. And you obviously you need to start with a big bang. Always good to start something new with a big bang. And Xiaomi sits down with you and says, starting now, our next phone, exclusive with you, but only online. We don't want them in your stores. And you're talking about 500,000 phones or so is what will be the number. Would you say no?
No, I mean, I don't, no, I wouldn't say no.
Xiaomi, if you're listening.
Yeah, if you're listening.
I'm striking the deal right here as we speak.
Yeah, fair enough. That wasn't exactly my point. So like if we take Xiaomi, for example, I don't blame neither them nor Flipkart. Right. They're just doing business, right? If there is a demand and a supply and the customers are willing to pay for it and that everybody's happy, then that is, you know, that's the right thing. And just because I think something, if the customers disagree, that's fine. My personal view is that in the long term, that's not always going to be in the benefit of the customer. Okay. And I think the customers themselves will demand by switching to other brands or other options. That's exactly what I meant.
So would you do it in the short term because it's the need of the hour? Would you? Because you do believe in serving the customer right, standing by the customer, making sure that he gets the right experience. So would you then change that for a one-off deal?
Yeah, we would sell items exclusively online, but I don't think it would be changing the, it's not like that's my strategy, that's more of a belief. Our strategy is basically whatever the customer wants, we'll try to do our best to provide to them at a good value and get a good service. So if there's a demand out there, yes, we'll do it. And look, frankly, we already sell lines exclusively online. Because, you know, the idea is, you know, one of the advantages we have is, you know, there's over 10,000 SKUs available in our space easily. You know, we might carry 1,500 of them in our stores, but why not extend all, you know, 10,000 to the customers who want it? We can't afford to put a display in every store. So if somebody knows what they want, yeah, well, of course, we'll sell it to them online. That's how online works, in my view. I'm just saying that a whole brand, I don't think long-term, you know, can sustain just only being online.
You know, there have been other players that are also strong brick and mortar players who've done the omni-channel and failed, especially here in this country. Are you quite confident that you'll be able to do it differently? Because we don't really have a single player who is big offline and has done a fantastic online model and reaped the benefit of both. Are we different here in India in some way? Because we've seen, like you said, there are countries abroad where the online-offline model has worked and worked well, and they continue to become bigger and bigger now. Did they do it wrong? Are you going to do it right? Or can you point out one or two things you're very sure you'll do right?
That's excellent points and a tough question. The last part of your question I'll answer first is I don't feel that India is any different. I think that there are some laws as it relates to infrastructure and how you move products across states that have slowed the growth versus other countries. That if that wasn't there, the same, brick and mortar retailers could do the same thing. Correct. I don't, that they've done in the United States or England. I don't see any difference. And, Indian consumer is just like any country. They want the best value for their money. I mean, I don't see that there's any disadvantage or advantage to that. I don't know that anybody's tried to launch an omni-channel here, a true omni-channel. I think, a few of our competition have, they've activated an online site and they put prices out there. But, to me, when you say an omni-channel, that means that you're extending the experience across different formats, and it's the same core experience, but you're extending it across. Okay. I don't think anyone's doing that, and I don't think anybody has even the store experience right. So the problem is if you're just selling products in a store and you just sell them online, then you're going to get what you get. Correct. If you're selling a whole experience in a store first, and you can extend that online, then I think you can do something.
Okay, so my final question, and this is called the crystal ball gazing question. Okay. So let's put a point to that the pipeline of funding to subsidize a particular product to give people a perception that it's always cheaper online dries up in 3 years. In those 3 years, with your online and offline strategy in play, what would make you really happy? What would have happened in those 3 years that would make you really happy?
Well, I think, in the next 3 years, what we really want to do is build our experience and figure out how to communicate that online to customers and have them be able to shop and interact at the way that they want. And our strategy is founded on the premise that unused technology, by unlocking unused technology for customers, will continue to create value, product after product after product, and that there'll always be a place for someone that can do that. Ideally, I guess if you're asking what do I hope happens, I hope all those guys go out of business and we have every customer in India, but I don't think that's realistic. What I think will happen is that, the online will come down to a couple players and they'll get more, it'll get more tough. The prices will get more, there'll always be that perception of online being the lowest prices. But there's a lot of other ways to play for our customers too.
So I did say last question, but I'll now do the one which is supposed to have a one-word answer. Okay. So at this present moment, if you were to buy a T-shirt, do you buy it online or offline?
Online.
Okay. Thank you so much, as always. Well, there is one particular way we actually introduced this show. I had said at one time there used to be heaven and hell. Now there's online and offline. Which is exactly what we'll come to know in about a few years from now. Till then, make sure that every single thing you buy, a gadget, a T-shirt or otherwise, is the best value for money from the best people. That's about the only advice I can leave you with. See you next week on The Contrarian. Thanks a lot. Thank you.